We're going to talk about the character sheet. I want to give you some definitions though first so that we can all be on the same page as we work through it. The first thing we're going to see here is up top with the character name. That one's pretty easy. We all understand we need a name. Over here, we've got our class. Remember, that's a profession more than anything else. Race is like a species that you have. Background, we're going to talk about this a little bit more at the end of this video, but essentially this is what they did before they were an adventurer. So what did your character do before they started on this path of an adventurer? Alignment, we talked about this a little bit already about how it's lawful good, chaotic evil. You need to put your player name over here, and then experience points, well, you don't have any yet. On this side of your screen, the left-hand side of your screen, these are your ability scores. Okay, so you will fill these in using math. We talk about this, I'll talk about this a little bit more as we go through the character creation, but essentially these are the main scores that your character will utilize. So I'm going to give you a little definition of each. So strength, this is how strong your character is, right? Physically. Dexterity, this is how swift you are. It usually is about agility, that sort of thing, used for thieves, rogues. Constitution, this is your endurance score. How hard can you get hit? Can you survive poison? That sort of thing. Intelligence, this is going to be your reasoning and memory. Okay. Wisdom is more about perception and insight. And then charisma is all about your personality. So over here, inspiration, we don't really need that right now. Proficiency bonus though, that one's important. The proficiency bonus is used when you're doing a saving throw or an attack roll. And your player class will determine what attacks and saving throw that they are proficient in. So when we get to it, when I'm making my character sheet, you will see that Minarath is proficient in wisdom and charisma. So whatever her proficiencies are, that's when you would add a proficiency bonus because you know how to do that. Make sense? Over here we have important things like armor class. Armor class is basically the determining factor of if you get hit in combat. So if we're in a fight and your armor class is 11 and our goblin fiend rolls a 12, okay, they're going to hit you because your armor class is lower than what they rolled, okay? Your armor class is basically 10 plus your dexterity, okay, for unarmored. If you're using different armor, leather, light armor, chainmail, things like that, there will be a different way to calculate your armor class. So you'll just want to check into that and make sure that you are getting the right armor class for your character. Right next door is initiative. Initiative is your roll to see when you get to attack, your turn order essentially. And so roll your d20 and then it is plus your dexterity, because remember dex is about agility. How quick are you? Okay, and that is your initiative. Remember, that's where it's, if I roll a 12 but you roll a 14, you would go first in the turn order. And then speed is how fast you are, like how fast you can travel. Most base speeds are going to be 30 feet. But if you're an elf, you get a little bit higher. If you're a gnome, well, you're short, you don't. Hit points down here. And then this hit points, that's how many attacks, how many hits you can take before you die, essentially. And that's determined by, you'll figure that out based on your class, your race, all that good stuff. The rest of this is going to be for your character that you've created already. So personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. There's a place to put your attacks. Your weapons go up here with their damage type, their attack bonus, and their name. You can also put spells there. You have proficiencies down here. This is like languages, whether or not you're proficient with different tools, things like that. Down here you have equipment. This is where you can put extra stuff like your armor. And then over on this side you have features and traits. Okay, so let's get started with creating our characters now. All right, we're going to walk through the character sheet now. This is a little bit, there's math involved, I'll say. So it's a lot. It's a lot. It's going to take you some time, and you're going to need to read a lot of the materials given to you. And honestly, I have played a character all of 1.5 times, I will say. So this is going to be a lot of figuring things out on your end. I will show you how to do it, and then hopefully you can follow through. Everything is in those resources, though, that you need to make these characters. All right, so I'm going to go into D&D Beyond just so you can see the resource as I'm using it. Okay, so here is D&D Beyond's character creation. You are going to be using paper and pencil for this. So find a character sheet. In your resources, the USB drive there is a PDF that is one that you can fill out on the computer as well. You can open that up, but otherwise there is a character sheet provided for you. Go ahead and look at that. We're going to go ahead and do a standard build here, and I'm going to make Minirath Greybeak, I believe is what we said. The first question it asks is, how are you going to advance? And this is up to your DM. There are 2 options, generally speaking. One is XP that you get for doing challenges, killing monsters, fighting foes, that sort of thing. Or there's milestone, and milestone is more arbitrary for the DM, where they say, I am going to have you level up because you achieved this step. Usually I do milestone because it's easier than keeping track of all of the XP, especially when you give different XP to different people. Now, there are a lot of different classes and things like that. D&D Beyond provides all of them, but you do have to buy the material that goes with it if you want a certain race. The general rule of thumb is if it's in the player handbook, it's available to you. So we're going to do a mountain dwarf. And this is my race, remember? This is going to show me the information about my race modifiers, okay? So here are racial traits. This is important when you're making your character sheet, which we'll see here in just a minute, okay? So I get +2 to Constitution. I have Dark Vision, Dwarven Resilience, Dwarven Combat Training, and Stone Cunning, okay? So these are all things that are strictly related to whatever race I pick. You will also have those. Tool proficiency, I can have a artisan's tool of my choice, and then it tells me which options I have. Same for you, just follow through the player's handbook or through your Warriors and Weapons book, and these things should be there for you, okay? Gonna go ahead and choose that race. We knew that's what we wanted, okay? And then we're gonna click next. On your character sheet, you would not click next. You would just turn the page and go to the next chapter, okay? So we did want Minirath to be a warlock. A warlock usually is a magic user that had to give up something so powerful that they received magic in exchange. So there we go. Here you're going to see your hit die. Then we also have ability. Like, this is my primary ability. This is what my attacks are going to need. I'm going to need charisma. And then for saving, I have wisdom and charisma. Most magic users, that's what it's going to be. If you are more of a heavy hitter, like a fighter or a barbarian, they're going to be things like constitution and strength. Those are what you'll need. But magic users, usually it's wisdom, charisma. Down here, it's going to talk about hit points. So I have 1d8 per warlock level. Okay, 1d8 per warlock level. We're level 1. 1d8. If I were level 2, I'd get 2. Hit point at first level is 8 plus my constitution modifier. Because I am a warlock, it's going to be pretty small and I'll be real squishy. All right, so not very good. Okay, we're going to add our class. Very good. Now you're going to want to look at proficiencies. All right, we're going to show more. And this is all just coming straight out of the player's handbook, but in a more easily accessible way so that we can look at it together through the computer. All right, so proficient in light armor, I'm proficient in simple weapons. My saving throws are for wisdom and charisma, and I can choose 2 skills from one of these. All right, so let's go ahead and think about what Minerath would want as her skills. Arcana, yes, this is usually so you can do more things with magic checks and things like that. And probably intimidation, I would guess. Minerath is kind of turning into a bad guy, maybe. Oh, let's hope not. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave that how it is and move to the next thing. This is ability scores, okay? And so let me show you here. Your character sheet looks like this. This is the one where you can fill things out. Minerath. Great. Class here, we are warlocks. Race here, we are a dwarf. Alignment, we're going to put, oh dear, we're going to put lawful. Would Minerath be lawful? I mean, she kind of broke with tradition. We're going to put neutral and true neutral, I think, honestly, because I think this could go either way. She could be a bad guy. We haven't gotten the background yet, but I'll show you that here in a second. Put your name in as the player name, and you don't have any experience points yet. Okay. Here's where you can fill in some of that information that you have already made about your character. So flaws, she's short and afraid of heights. Patient and a dwarven magic user. Meow. Okay, so she's got a lot of flaws. Her bond is that fiend. Super. And we haven't really figured out these other things yet. So over here, these are where you're going to put in your ability scores, and that's what we're going to figure out next. Okay, there are a lot of different ways that you can get ability scores. My favorite way is to roll for them, because I think that rolling is part of the fundamentals of playing D&D, and so it's important to roll for your ability scores. Oh, we're going to do that. So there are other ways though. So the rolling for them is the manual way here. There's also what's called standard array. And so it will give you kind of like a list of numbers that are typically found for things. If I put in 13 here, then I can put another one here. These are not right for my character, by the way. But so this is what a standard array looks like. It generates it and then you put them in there. You can also do a point buy system. So for this one, and this is all determined by your DM, whoever is going to DM. The point remaining, right? So you get 27 points and then you spend them on things. So it's -9 points if I want 15 in charisma and if I want 15 in wisdom, and then I'm in trouble for the rest of them because I don't have very many points left. right? Oh, I mean, honestly, this is not the worst thing that's ever happened for a warlock. Okay, so let's just keep that for now because I don't have my dice on hand to roll for you. Down here, then, it calculates for you what each of them is. Again, this is a nice system you can use to make your character because it does it all for you, but all of this information is in the book, and how you create these bonuses and modifiers is written in the book as well. Plus, you'll get different things depending on your race. So you can see a racial bonus here for strength. So, that being said, Minarath is basically done. We'll talk about equipment a little bit. This is all specified again in your book. Okay, and it looks almost identical to this in your book. It will tell you starting warlock equipment or whatever your class is, right? And you have to pick between these things. So I could do a crossbow or a simple weapon. I'm going to do a simple weapon, and then it gives you the options of what your simple weapon could be. I don't know. Probably she's good at hand axes. I don't know. So, and then it's always an either or choice. Usually 3 of them are available. Okay, so a component pouch or an arcane focus. We're going with the arcane focus, and it's gonna be a staff. And then you can choose, let's see, a scholar's pack or a dungeoneer's pack. Oof, that's a tough choice for Minarath because she's probably got something of both. I would say she's probably got a dungeoneer's pack. And then it tells you what's in the dungeoneer's pack. These are all things that you'll carry with you. Okay? And last but not least, leather armor and any simple weapon and 2 daggers. Feels like she's pretty like OP, honestly. Let's look, hand axe. Okay, so we got that. It adds it all in there. Whee! For your character sheet, there is a spot to either fill it in like this here. So you can type in, or you write it out by hand on your paper sheet. Okay, so just like that, this is where you'll put your racial features and traits over here, and you'll fill in this sheet over here. So for our saving throws, we had charisma and wisdom, 15 here. Usually a good rule of thumb is that 10 is kind of like the middle ground, right? And so for anything above, this is probably a +2, I would guess. Let's check and see if I'm right. Yes. So each of my 15s are +2. I have a 9 in intelligence, so that's bad. And since 9 is under 10, it's -1. There is definitely like a really cool way of figuring this out mathematically. I have just kind of learned it so that I don't have to think about it. This is a -1 as well. But yeah, so you can kind of see those higher scores are going to be pluses, those lower scores are going to be either neutral or minuses. Okay, and then here, these are your skills here, and it will probably, we said Arcana, and I forget what, and Intimidation. So we just mark off the things that we got there, and then there will be a way to calculate through the book how you come across your scores. This is a process for sure. One thing we still need to talk about for our character creation is their background. And I'm going to try and flip forward here to the backgrounds in the book. Basically, your background is what your character did before they became an adventurer. There are a bunch of different ones. They all give you skill proficiencies and a little bit of extra like bonusy stuff. So the Acolyte has a skill proficiency in insight and religion, and then you get 2 languages. You can also randomize these things. So like if I wanted to roll a d6 and just kind of pick one of these based on that. You can do that. Usually I like to get a little bit more personal with my characters, but it's kind of fun to see. The criminal has proficiencies in deception and skill, or deception and stealth. Okay, and you can roll and just see randomly what you get if you want, but you don't have to. But that is what a background is. Also important for your character. I'm trying to think what Minerath would probably do. I might have to get back to you on that one. She's not a sailor, that's for sure. And then here, chapter 5 is equipment, but we kind of went through that a little bit already. That should be it for your characters. That's why we dedicated all this time, all the talking about characters, because they're super important. It's super in depth. The player's handbook is essentially just about building your characters. There's some other stuff in there, but not much. So that I want you to really work on your characters, work on your character sheets. If you have questions, please let me know.